Good afternoon, and welcome to Lid Bashing, where the L stands for Legions, the I stands for Imperialis, and the Bashing stands for Kid Bashing. Time for another unscripted unboxing and review. And I feel a little bit like my cup's running over at the moment because not only have we got some releases this week, but we also have releases in another 2 weeks' time. So yeah, nice, easy content for me and easy listening for all of you. Today we've got a box of cards, a book, and 3 new kits. We're going to start with the paper stuff and then go into the plastic. So let's look at our paper. First thing I notice is the cover of The Devastation of Tallarn is an awful lot better image quality wise than the Battle of Beta Garmon book was. I don't know if you remember, but feel free to get it out and have a look at it if you've got it yourself. But the Great Slaughter book had a very blurry front cover, almost as if they'd used the same image resolution on the cards and the book and forgot to scale it up. So it was a little bit blurry, not the end of the world, but you know, it's the paper aspects of this game haven't been the most well received, especially compared to how good the models have been. So it's nice to see that there's a little bit more control over what's being put in the books now. So I'm not going to go through the whole book, but we are going to have a quick look inside, see if there's anything interesting, because most of the rules, etc., are out there on the internet from those people who got the books a little bit early due to partnerships with Games Workshop. I don't have one of those yet. I think the social media teams say you need kind of 10,000 subs on YouTube for specialist games before they'll consider you. So please like and subscribe so I can start getting free stuff from Games Workshop, and I'll pass all that extra information on to you. So starting off with our usual maps, our nice redacted something vaguely Imperial. I won't do any silly voices today. Devastation of Tallarn, the fall of the Sapphire City. Lots of nice pictures. Just going to flick through to see if there's anything interesting that we've not expected yet. Lots of fluff. The fluff's the good bit, so I'll read that at my leisure. Some knights battling. I've heard rumours of there being some sneaky unreleased units pictured, even if it's just recycled 30k art. There we go, there's our first sneaky release. These are Mark IV Marines. They look like the old Forge World resins rather than the slightly newer but still outdated Games Workshop plastics. But still, Mark IV Marines in this book is interesting, rather than just all being the Mark VI we're used to. I don't suppose Mark IV... The only way I could see Mark IV being next is if we get the update to Mark IV, like we got the update to Mark III. If they do that in 28mm, then I expect ours will follow shortly after. Of course, it could just be recycled art. It could mean absolutely nothing. But, you know, they've been sneaky and thrown hints as to what's coming next before in the books in terms of talking about the Great Slaughter and talking about Tallarn. So, you know, could well be a sign. Okay, this is the first, definitely not just recycled. This is a Sakaaran Venator for the Iron Hands. And if you've been paying even slightly close attention, you'll know that the Sakaaran Venator is one we haven't got yet. We've got all the other Sakaaran releases. We've got the Omega Plasma Relays. We've got the Accelerator Autocannons. We've got the Punishers. We've got the Arcus. We do not have Venators. This is proper art under a Formation of Legend, which, interestingly, doesn't let you take this thing. But obviously wouldn't let you take this thing because this thing doesn't exist yet. So this lets you take Autocannon Sakaarans and Omega Plasma Sakaarans, which can be extended with some more Accelerator Autocannon Sakaarans with a big picture of a Venator underneath. So if I were to have a educated wish, this would be the next kit we're getting out, and which would complete our Sakaaran collection. This would be relatively easy to lit bash if you could find the spare neutron cannons from the Valdus, etc. kit for the Solar Auxilia tanks, but that would mean, sacrificing a whole tank in order to make a whole tank that A, doesn't have rules yet, and B, is likely to have rules and models soon. So I won't necessarily recommend it, but it is possible if you're thinking of things to kit bash. Lots more fun things. Formations of Legend. I'll have to do some reading and work out how competitive any of these extra ones are. Like this, for example, I do not suppose is particularly competitive, but it looks fun. Here are new rules, new transports. Again, I'm not going to hover over these. One, because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to in terms of copyright, and two, because, loads of places on the internet who are allowed to have already started sharing them. So look at those much better. This is just me sharing my initial ideas and thoughts and responses. The thing I'm particularly interested in, as far as talking about it with you guys, are the tank commanders, because they seem very, very good, both in terms of letting you take a single tank, thus extending, you could have a unit of 10 Predators or a unit of 7 Kratos or Sigarans, which is a bit silly. 7 Kratos, one of which is a commander heading towards you. Only downside is they do take up a whole HQ or tank slot, which is a shame. Nice if they're an upgrade to a tank, but never mind. Some nice example armies. Considering that's the official army, there's not an awful lot of hazard stripes. Come on, you could have given us more hazard stripes than that. An advert for the Horus Heresy novels. I've been tempted to do, because I've never actually read these. I've read all the kind of gumph and synopses, but I've never actually read them. So I might, if it's something you guys are interested in, I might start reading them through, reviewing each book, talking about what models you'll need to replay the narrative battles that happened. That might be something I'll do if it's content you'd like to see. If you've got any other ideas for content you'd like to see, throw it down in the comments below. Again, decent book. My instinct is that this is probably a better book than the last one, simply by quality of those pictures and quality of the front. But, I'll read it at my leisure when I'm not expecting you all just to watch me stare at a book. More stickers on these than the last time. Don't know what that means. As easy as it is, and it is easy to, God, made a right pig's ear opening out, didn't I? Oh well, I'm going to transfer them into a better box anyway. As easy as it is to complain about Games Workshop, and it is easy to complain about Games Workshop, the fact that they've started reprinting the cards and obviously having them a bit more available to combat the scalpers was a good move. So, small mercies when it comes to celebrating the company that takes so much of my money. Very curvy. These are brand new. They've come straight from the shop to me today, so it's annoying. They've not exactly been moist or anything, so this is obviously just how they come. I'll need to shield or sleeve these to get them into something usable. So that's disappointing. But oh well, let's see how many we get of each. Interesting. It's not necessarily how I would have arranged it. Only 1 for the sabers, 1 for the termites, 1 for each of the new super heavies, but 2 each for the variants of the Sicarans, 2 each for the Leman Russes, and 1 each for the tank commanders. Interesting. I wonder why they've decided to do that. And then formation cards for each of the vanilla formations, nothing for the formations of legend, which isn't necessarily surprising, but is a shame. Fun. So cards interestingly arranged. Cards not quite so good as last time. Book slightly better than last time. So far, everything is balanced, as all things should be. Now let's move on to the plastic bit. What should we start with? Shall we start with the... Let's start with the big boys. The Shadow Swords, Storm Blades, and Storm Swords. Still got the Bormonic Devils and the Chthonian Headhunters on the back. Inside we have the usual 2 sprues. 2 identical sprues, allowing you to build 2 of any of the variants. So 2 models maximum, but it looks like you can build 2 shadows, 2 storms, blades or swords. Nice. Big tanks are fun. Instructions. Yeah, you know, the last time I did an unboxing, it was the nice fancy big box, which had coloured instructions, which I think spoiled me. Because, you know, black and white instructions, fine, better for the environment, better for, you know, printing as many as they are, but colour instructions are nice. It might actually be worth drilling out the barrels. I know I did a joke how to drill 8mm gun barrels for April Fools, but I think it might actually be worth drilling out that siege cannon to stop it being just a big nub. And the disappointing solar transfer sheet. Considering they've just introduced so many new, inverted commas, solar cohorts, lore and symbols, it is a shame that we've still got such an anemic transfer sheet compared to the Astartes ones. I'll keep that there so we can look at it compared to the Astartes ones in a minute. Still, big tanks are fun. That kit should be good for those of you who like big tanks. I'll need to do a breakdown of which big tanks we still have to go. Obviously the Astartes still have their Fellblade to come, which will be a big thing when that comes, and it has to be coming. There is no doubt in my mind that we are getting a Fellblade, probably sooner rather than later. If we get through the next expansion with no Fellblade, I'll be very surprised. Next expansion, I reckon Fellblades, Signarum Venators, and some kind of new infantry. Don't know what the Solar will get, but that's what I reckon the Astartes will get. Looking at the rules for these, the downside of this kit is the same as the downside of the other kit, in that standard Lehman Russ's one version is obviously so much better than the other, and the same with this one. I think the Demolisher will see play. It would surprise me if the Executioner saw much play. Almost exactly the same kit as last time, just with different turrets. Which is nice because it means you can mix and match. These still made in the UK. Yeah, still manufactured in Nottingham. Something, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if you can see on here, but it looks slightly rounder and shinier than the last one. Only ever so slightly, particularly on this side. Don't know if that's just me. Might just be a different moulding style. 2024 date, so these are new. It's not like they were sitting on these for a long time, which is nice compared to some of the other sculpts which had some very early dates on. Another instruction manual. It surprises me that the Demolishers have that sort of cannon when we've had that sort of cannon on other things, and they've had that bit facing forward, so you get the dip without having to drill it out. But definitely worth drilling out. I wonder if they're drilled out on the box. Yeah, they've drilled them out on the box, so definitely worth doing. So now let's open up the Astartes one release from this week. Scarran, Arcus and Punisher Squadron. I very almost lit bashed these only a couple of weeks ago using 28mm scale rocket launchers and a Terminator, 28mm scale Terminator rotary cannon, and I didn't. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because, you know, we've got actual models for them now. One thing that's interesting is they're obviously planning these models to be done in smaller units, because there's very little savings for taking larger units compared to... Interestingly, it still has Death Guard as the paint scheme on here, but gives you the Imperial Fists up here, which means both of the suggested paint schemes are traitor primarily, which is fun, because, you know, Death of the False Emperor. Again, very similar sprues. The only real difference is the turrets. And we do get enough turrets to build them all as one type or the other type. Fun. I do like the Scarran as a tank. I think it's a good shape, a good chassis. Our instructions. So yeah, build this exactly the same up to the point where you choose your weapons, and you can keep them either just held in by gravity for action, or you could magnetize them to swap to your heart's content. And sure enough, no way of sticking a little dude in an Arcus, but you can have your tank commanders be in the Punisher. And the real letdown. I mean, look how sexy this transfer sheet is. The only downside of this that I've said before is that it doesn't give you bi-colour options for some of the others. Like, I would love dark Emperor's Children shoulder pads for those I want to give white shoulder pads to. But the biggest crime is less than a third of the size once you take into account all of this gumph. Come on, improve our Solar Auxilia transfer offer, Games Workshop. That's your biggest easy win you could do. I wonder, has anyone ever used this as a transfer? I think it is cut like a transfer if you wanted it to. And that's all the releases this time. There's not an awful lot of things jumping out at me as ideas for how to lit bash with this particular release, mainly because this release is sort of filling in the gaps that we were missing. There's a third saber option. There's a Volkite saber option that might be worth looking into, because there's only one missing version of the saber, and there's not an awful lot of Volkite weapons in the game so far at all. The only Volkite weapons are on the Solar Auxilia HQ choice, and on as a kind of Titan option. In terms of that kind of mid-size Volkite, there's not an awful lot in the game to choose from, so I don't suppose we'll get the Volkite weapons as options. So I might look into figuring out a way of how to get a Volkite saber. And obviously it just counts as one of the other types. So that one's possible. All the rest of this, I mean, there's no point in kit bashing a Venator out of the Scarran, because we're almost guaranteed to have that next. So yeah, otherwise just a really fun release to boost up your tanks. And next, well, in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, yeah, in a week's time it'll go up for pre-order, and in 2 weeks after that it'll be released. You've got the Sabres and Termites and the final load of Russes to come. Just fun. And then I suppose we'll be waiting for the teasers as to what comes next. Again, if I were a betting person, and in the case of these videos I sort of am, I would bet that we've got the Scarran Venator in the next load, we've got the Fellblade in the next load, and then some other kind of infantry. In spite of the little recycled images of the Mark IV Marines. I still think we're most likely to get Mark III next. Well, the guaranteed are Tartaros, Terminators, Breachers, maybe the close combat. Not are they Devastators? No, the other ones, the ones with guns and the non-jump back assault marine variants, destroyers, and something else. Maybe sniper marines. We'll see. But in any case, we've definitely got more infantry on the way. I'll make that prediction without any qualifications. So, fun release. Just a kind of very functional release this time. I'm looking forward to building up the bits that I'm missing. My pile of shame is building up. I've got a game tonight, so I've also organised those models. So I'll be playing a game. I've got some battle reports filmed. I'm aware that that's kind of the one area I haven't really done much on. So we're going to see, if you like battle reports, expect some of those to come up. And of course, some more lit bashes. I've got some white scars lit bashes finished. I've got some salamanders lit bashes finished. I just need to edit the videos, which is the thing that's taking up most of the time at the moment. So thank you as always to my Patreons, the sexy people that they are. If you'd like to join us over there, please do, because the more I'm supported on Patreon, the more nonsense I can kind of throw away, because obviously I'm not expecting any Patreon to support my own hobby, but when it comes to the stuff that I wouldn't necessarily buy for myself and the models I wouldn't necessarily lit bash for my own force, that's where the Patreon support really comes in handy. Otherwise, the only stuff you'd ever get would be Lightyear's Farm 3 traitor lit bashes, which would be fine by me. But if you want to see the loyalists, if you want to see other units, that's when that sort of stuff really helps. If you can't support that, please do support me by following and liking and commenting to boost that algorithm. And as always, peace and love, and do please keep on lit bashing.